You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of Convenience Matters. My name is Chris Blasinsky with NACS.
And my name is Mark Waldman, Director NACS Global.
Welcome, Mark. And today we are here with our good friend, Christian Warning. Let me give you a little street cred, Christian, before we get going. So Christian is the managing director of the Retail Marketeers. He is based in Germany, and he is also a NACS relationship partner. So the reason that we have you on today is we are going to talk about the Berlin market because we are super excited to have our first live Convenience Summit Europe taking place this year in Berlin, which is May 31st through June 2nd for anyone who's listening and wants to join us. And like I said, first live event in 2 years.
Yes, we're really looking forward to being back in person again. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
Hey, Christian.
It's been a long time.
Being back in Germany, finally, and our first in-person event. So you're looking forward to that?
I can't wait, Mark. And I'm very happy that I can be kind of a co-host based in Germany for the NACS community. And it will be a warm welcome to see you all guys again in person.
Absolutely. You know, Mark and I, along with our CEO, Henry Armour, and Michael Davis of NACS, we did a kind of a recon of the Berlin market, I believe, in November of 2018. So it feels like a lot has happened since then, the great understatement, right? And Mark, you getting ready for this event, you've been able to kind of retrace those footsteps a little bit, and you covered a lot of it in the December 2021 issue of NACS Magazine. Really great write-up there. I don't know if we're going to get to every point, but at least listeners can go back and see that issue. But I think, just me reading that, it seems like there's been some change even in that short amount of time.
There has been a lot of change, actually. So I have been back end of last year, and I just have been back once again, actually, to prepare our store tours for the Convenience Summit Europe. And a lot has happened in Berlin. Berlin is a very thriving market. It is a very entrepreneurial market. And I would say it is a market for our industry that is really, really worth visiting, because on the one hand side, you have all the small single stores that are really entrepreneurial, really innovative, coming up with the best and craziest ideas sometimes. And at the same time, you have all the big companies there as well. And some of them choose Berlin for their trial stores when they have new concepts. And we will definitely see some of those. So there is a lot going on in Berlin, and I'm really looking forward to that. And it's probably a little bit what I summarized in that magazine article back in December. Christian, you're much closer to the market than I am, and you're much more often in Berlin. So what's happening?
Yeah, now, Mark, you know that Berlin is Berlin. It's one of a kind city like other global metropolitan cities, whereas Berlin is maybe still the cheapest to live for the global party community, the artist community. That gives a special feeling. It's a true global city, and this is why we see a lot of different concept formats, entrepreneurial things like you mentioned also in your article, new food from around the world, large communities from all countries in the world, and that makes Berlin really special. Although we have to bear in mind a bit that the German retail market is one of the most complex in the world. There are not many markets that Walmart failed in.
That is true.
Is the one, and I think delegates really have great chance to see how German retail. That's the country where Aldi was born, Lidl was born.
Yep.
Their home turf. So very cemented market share in grocery retail, high competition, one of the highest density of supermarkets per capita in Berlin. Around the world, and delegates will really see kind of highest profitability per square feet, in many formats, and I think that's very interesting.
I mean, as you mentioned, this really is what our delegates usually look for, right? If you go on a store tour, on a retail safari in a different country, you want to look at how things are organized, how operations work. You also want to look at design and assortments, of course, but it's always the most interesting part to look behind the scenes and see how everything is really working and what the numbers are. And as you just mentioned, we'll be able to see some of the most profitable stores that actually are around, right?
Yeah, and I think we also see those big four trends which shaping the future of convenience and mobility here in Berlin. I mean, mobility hubs are already here. We have H2 sites on gas stations. We have LNG, CNG. We have all kinds of new fuel. There's a lot around e-fuels in Germany. We are the auto country, so OEMs are looking into new formats. We have the three largest EV charging hubs in Europe. They are in Germany right now. It's really going on in mobility, and we delegates will see in Berlin that growth in shared and vehicles and any kind of shared possibilities and kind of intermodal how we call it, kind of interfaces between public transport, go on an e-bike, rental e-bike, whatever, yeah, and EV car sharing things, yeah. Autonomous, not yet, yeah, but we will see that people prepare those things as well in Germany.
Well, autonomous is a really good point, and I mean you've been mentioning just all the big trends that are heading towards our industry, right? It's liquid fuels, it's e-fuels, it is food service, it is all kinds of automation that is coming our way. And you're saying, well, automated, not yet. Automated cars, fully driverless cars. Maybe Germany, one of the more tougher countries when it comes to regulation to get that going. But nevertheless, I think wasn't Germany one of the first countries where driverless little pods driving on campuses and business parks?
Absolutely. We have those robots. We have that in Hamburg, delivering pizza to my house here. Yeah, so I have that customer experience already, and we have, from a legislation point of view, Germany is ready for autonomous, and that's backed by the government, because we need to be at the forefront with our auto industry, and car makers are having kind of huge part of who and what we are in Germany in terms of our DNA. Yeah. But that comes to the next point. I think, Mark, what we see in Berlin is kind of home delivery. Yeah, and that's 13 months ago that two companies were raised and founded in Berlin, and they are unicorn meanwhile in terms of the evaluation, and have a global footprint like gorillas, and they deliver food within 10 minutes to your house. Another customer experience, and I remember we've been with NACS in Shanghai at the CSE. I think one of the last in-person meetings somewhere.
Yes, it was.
CSE and CSA.
Yeah.
And there was HEMA, and we said, 30 minutes within 3 kilometers. That will never happen in our home countries in the next 5-10 years. And it's there. It's 10 minutes here. Yeah. So that's interesting.
So for home delivery, then, basically COVID accelerated it.
Absolutely.
The same within the US. So do you guys see the home delivery aspect sticking around? Let's just say COVID's gone. It's, in the rearview mirror in a year. Is home delivery going to survive that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the new customer experience, and that will endure. And that's a big pressure on the convenience market, and we really have to look in brick and mortar. Are we participating here in that, how we do that. Yeah, that will be, I think, a big issue, Mark. We will also discuss within the conference, isn't it?
It will definitely be one of the topics that we will cover during the 2-day conference that we will have. We asked our global committees that we have for all the input. What are the key issues really that we need to talk about? And I think you just mentioned them all, that we can find them in Berlin, which is really, really awesome. You talked about delivery, and two of the biggest companies in Germany, they actually have been founded and have their headquarters in Berlin. So we'll probably have a look at those as well, to determine if these are competitors to our industry or if these are actually partners for our industry. And I think every retailer's approach is slightly different to that. The other thing that that you mentioned that I think is really important here is electrification of mobility. Surely something that we will cover on stage as well, but we can also see that actually with in Germany really large charging parks being built, and not just as a big charging park somewhere with nothing else to offer, but around bakeries, around bistros, and all that. So it's a really smart connecting parts of our industry, the food service and convenience retail industry, with electric charging. Is that where you would say Germany is well ahead compared to other European countries?
I think yes. You have to bear in mind. I mean, we are smaller than Texas, but I think we have 4 times as many cars on the roads, and people live very dense, and that gives other possibilities in terms of electrification here than in other countries, and those large countries like in the US. And if we look at that, I'm very happy that I have created a pre-event study tour and will offer this to the CSE delegates together with our friend Dan Munford, who's done that a lot around other NACS events as well. And we will give delegates the chance to have a look at the largest EV charging parks. We will have a wine tasting in a gas station. That's maybe also a German typical thing. So with the NACS member and co-host Peter Herm, he will host that group in southern Germany, and then we will go to Berlin, have the latest sites in Munich, and I will guide the group with an ICA train, 4 hours train drive across Germany within 800 kilometers to Berlin, and bring them to the next event if they want. Yeah, so people can really make the most out of their in-person trip here to Germany next May, June.
I think the last time we were in Munich, Mark, you were on stage with another company. You weren't even with NACS yet.
Yes, exactly. That has been quite a while.
That's how long it's been. I think 2008 or 2009, it all blurs together, but I think that's how long it's been.
Yeah, it definitely has. And funny enough, Christian, that you just mentioned Germany is what the size of Texas. I just met one of our US members at our Kellogg Marketing Executive Program, Don. Don, if you're listening, so I listened to you. I know you will come to Berlin. So he actually told me that, Berlin is exactly that city that I want to go to, that I want to explore, because so much is happening there. So really, really looking forward to that. Maybe let me ask you one other question, because when I just recently came over to have a look at the stores that we want to line up for the store tour, I also had a look at tobacco sales in petrol stations. And I mean, Germany is not a dark market, but so you can still show everything. It's fully open. But I saw some really innovative solutions for dealing with tobacco, also dealing with tobacco products in terms of age restriction, in terms of shrinkage. Is there a lot of technology investment on that front?
Yeah, it is, but it's also kind of an uplift in personal operation, and I think that's the big object or point on any CEO's agenda globally. labor shortage, and also in Germany we have a shrinking population, and we really have to think about operational procedures. How can we automate things? How maybe can we smaller margin articles? Even 62% of our total sales in convenience stores are still tobacco in Germany. Every fourth is smoking still. Yeah, but ways to find out how to automate those things and put your people into food service and other high margin areas, I think it's a good way, and people will see that, as well as new things of checkout opportunities, and yes, digitization is of course within those big parts and trends which shape the future, and Berlin is ready and doing. Yeah.
That is true, and labor shortage. I mean, again, another topic that we will most probably cover on stage. There, I just had a conversation the other day with Professor Riaz Shah from the Ahold International Business School, who is kind of specializing on labor development, skills development, and he presented something really interesting about peak population. If you look at all the highly populated countries in the developing world, population is declining. Population growth until 2000, well, about 50 years from now, is really only happening in Africa. So what that means for countries like Germany is that labor shortage will not go away. We have to deal with it, and we have to find solutions for it. What I saw in Germany actually is a lot of investment on the technology side to really make sure that you can deal with the labor shortage, but at the same time making sure that you deploy your employees wherever it is really important to have a physical personal interaction with your customer. And I found that really appealing. Do you see that happening everywhere, or is that just maybe I just went into the 2-3 right stores to see that?
No, it's everywhere, and you have to bear in mind also in Germany, other than in other countries, we have 12 power centers. Yeah? Even if Berlin is special, but the German economy without Berlin would be 0.2% better, whereas the economy in the UK, for example, without London would be 20% less, or Greek without Athens would be 35% less, I think. Yeah. So that makes sure that those developments are around the country, and not only in Berlin, but they are in Berlin, so people can see, and we can discuss that on site and live, what we are all waiting for.
Yeah. Well, we just had some, I think it was 2 months ago, we had our international committee meetings virtually, was still back then. And we always ask the question, what are the key things that are happening, that are keeping you awake? And it's slightly different from region to region, of course, there's a different focus, but what everyone agreed in Asia Pacific, in Europe, Middle East, Africa, as well as in Latin America, is that the change that is coming to our industry is as big and as fast as never before. And the change for the next 10 years will be much, much bigger than the change we experienced over the past 10 years. Is that something that you see over there as well?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that the next big inflection point, how some people also tell the mobility changes, is only one aspect, but it's like 100 years ago when horses and carriages were replaced by cars.
Yes.
We now are in an even faster situation, and those delivery examples, those new companies who are coming up. This week, another unicorn from Germany, Infarm, has raised another finance round, and those things are very interesting to see, and how fast they grow, what new elements they bring into the consumer behavior and how fast people adapt in cities like Berlin, those new offers, and then once they had the customer experience, they don't get away from it.
So back up for a second for that concept. That was refresh my memory, that was the vertical farming, the hydroponic farming inside the stores where you see the fresh lettuce and everything underneath the...
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And people will see that in many supermarkets where we go into, as well as bakery shops. And we have 40,000 bakery shops. That's a bit of why I always see that's convenience, because in every other markets those local corner store locations are possessed by convenience stores. In Germany, there are lots of bakeries, and that's also interesting. I had a study tour recently, hosted a group from around the UK and Ireland, and they were firstly in Norway, and they thought, okay, Norway is a bread country. And then they came over to Germany and said, no, it's Germany is about bread. Yeah. So that will be interesting for people.
Isn't like Germany has more than 200 different types of bread or something like that?
At least,
yeah. Well, it is. I mean, having so many bakeries, it is kind of part of our industry, because I think what we saw over the past decade or even 2 decades is that bakeries expand into FMCG sales, so they try to become a little bit more like convenience stores here and there, and at the same time, I would say. It really helped our industry, the core convenience stores and the petrol station stores, to up their game when it comes to selling bread products. I remember, Chris, you mentioned our visit to Munich some years ago already. It was more than a decade ago, but I do remember everyone really looking at those bread rolls and how they are being presented in petrol station shops and really looking really appetizing and really good. I think having that type of competition makes for a lot of innovation actually coming into the market.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember that was one of the themes that we wanted to talk about when we visited Berlin in 2018 was the bakery that was in the coffee. I don't know if we talked about coffee. Did we talk about coffee yet? Can we talk about bread without coffee?
No, we can't.
Okay.
Coffee, they will enjoy the most sophisticated new kind of ideas of coffee shops. That's the entrepreneurial spirit here. If people say, "Oh, I have a coffee program," yeah, you might have, but you haven't seen a kind of the newest kind of dirty coffee, mixing coffee with tea or whatever. Yeah, there are so many drip coffee innovations, and that's interesting to see how kind of with that entrepreneurial spirit, little coffee shops can not only survive but make a good business around good old coffee. Yes.
Dirty coffee. I haven't had that. I haven't seen that, but you intrigued me, so I have to try that. Whatever that is. You know
how it goes. When we go to other countries, we try everything. We'll try everything once. That's my theory.
And don't forget the sausage. So Berlin is the global capital of the currywurst. Yeah, so that sausage people will remember maybe from 2015 when we have been with NACS in Berlin the last time. That experience, and I will make sure everybody has got that experience in 2022 again.
Christian, every time you come to the United States, you manage to do like the quintessential American things, right? You go to baseball games and you catch foul balls. You go to Green Bay to a Packers game and you get your big cheese head. So we're going to lean on you for the German experience to show everybody around. I've heard about the late nights. I don't know if I can do it, but I know you usually get a good crowd to experience what Berlin is like after hours.
Yes, I can. You have my word on this, and you can be sure. I can't wait to come to the US next year, and we'll have some other sports experiences as well again.
Yeah, I believe you know where the best currywurst is too. So
we really can't wait to get back to Germany. Really looking forward to having our Convenience Summit Europe in Berlin in summer 2022. Looking at all these amazing new concepts, these really entrepreneurial outlets, including the dirty coffee. I have to remember that. I have to try that next time. I think the craziest thing I saw in Berlin was the independent small convenience store operator who had a hidden door as an entrance to a nightclub, and the hidden door actually is the cooler, so you can walk through the cooler into a nightclub, which was a really cool thing. Not sure that if that is scalable for any larger organization, but still that shows what
I had a similar experience in Boston when I bought sneakers at Bodega.
The shoe store, yep.
and I went into the convenience store, get the hidden door to go into the sneaker heaven. That was amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you. This was a great conversation. And for anybody who is wanting to know more about how to attend this event we've been talking about, it's Convenience Summit Europe. It's convenience.org/CSE. And again, those dates are May 31st to June 2nd. So again, thank you guys, and thank you to the listeners. If you would like to hear more on Convenience Matters, because we talk about lots of fun stuff like this, you can subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. So thanks again, guys. Talk to you soon.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.